Hey folks, this is Bardic Dragoon. Welcome back to welcome back to Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. So we last left off, we escaped from a tower that housed something known as the Well of Souls, a powerful magical device that could bring people back from the dead, from which we were the first, and given the state of things as we were escaping, likely to be only survivor. That being said, we have now entered into the open wide world, and now it's time to, do kind of the secondary stage of the tutorial. This one's a little less guided, but in this first little area of the open world, there's a number of things we can interact with, and that show us some things that weren't really explained in there. Though they also aren't terribly they aren't really explained here either, but gives us some options to interact with things with some brief explanations. First thing, though, is going to be leveling up. Because yes, I was correct in the previous episode that when you finish the tutorial, you have enough experience to level up from 0 to 1, and it just for some reason doesn't always trigger immediately when you step out. Do you have to take a couple of steps down these steps into the real world, I guess? I don't know. Point is, it's time to level up. And first thing is going to be skills. We talked about skills a good amount at the previous one when we were creating our character, since, you get 4 points pre-distributed based on what class or what race you choose. But now that we're actually here and can see that, as I mentioned, you can see we have 9 skills: alchemy, blacksmithing, detect hidden, dispelling, lockpicking, mercantile, persuasion, sagecraft, and stealth. Each of these has a max of 10 levels. And you'll notice that each level is represented by either a blank square, which just gives you a default bonus for leveling up that skill, or one with a little rune thingy in it, which basically says that you have, or basically is a milestone that gives you something a little bit extra. For example, in, let's say, Detect Hidden. Level 2, you have a milestone that allows you to see hidden treasures on the map, and allows you also to interact with said hidden treasures. I don't believe you can interact with them without that skill. Anyway, but the fact that you get 1 skill point at every level up, you might think, oh, well, that's only when you add your 4 ones for your starting class, 44 skill points, compared to you'd need 90 to max out everything. However, it's actually fairly easy, especially with the DLC, though even without it, you can come exceptionally close to the maxing out everything. Because for each skill, in addition to, the 44 skills you can divide however you want from leveling up, each skill you can gain up to 5 additional skill points. 4 from trainers, who are divided into basic, advanced, and master, more on that in a moment, and 1 skill book. Now the trainers are kind of the sticking point here, because since the trainers are divided into the subcategories as far as level groupings for your skills, predictably, trainers will only train you if you are within that skill. So for example, a basic trainer will only train you if you are level 3 or less. Whereas an advanced trainer will only train you if you are between levels 4 and 7. And yeah, because of that, we're going to probably end up, respecking is going to be a thing you're going to go look into, because it's an option, and it's not super hard to do. It does cost money, but by the time that you're going to be doing it more frequently, money isn't a super big deal. So it's annoying, but not undoable. So, with that said, we're going to start here just popping a point to Detect Hidden, as it's, in my opinion, the most useful skill in the game, but because the race that I chose, I don't have any points in that. So we'll do that, and it's going to give us more gold when we explore the environment, looting dead bodies, finding treasure chests, stuff like that, as well as allow us to see enemies on the mini-map. Now, the more important part when it comes to leveling up is, your actual abilities. You have 3 skills, and you can spend points in them as more or less as you see fit. For you to unlock higher level skills, you do need to, in addition to keeping within the lines here, you can't get Brutal Weaponry 2 without first having at least 1 point in Brutal Weaponry 1, for example. But you also need to have a certain amount of points to go up each tier. First tier is 5, second one requires 20, third 35, fourth 50, and the final tier requires you to have 70 points in that skill before you can start buying stuff in that level. And this is basically how you kind of choose your build. What passive abilities, weapon attacks, kind of its own thing, or active abilities do you choose to learn and then level up. because, well, you're not going to get to 70 points by just putting 1 point to everything here. You do need to apply multiple points and level up, your spells or increase the effect of the passive abilities. Now, given that, as I just mentioned, respeccing is basically an inevitability, we're basically going to be playing around and trying out different builds as we go through the game. To start off with, mostly because with the skill selection, it's ostensibly the best for would-be combo makers and also just kind of the strongest in general because of that, we're going to start out with a might-focused build, commonly referred to as a warrior, as kind of going with the warrior class. And to do that, we're going to start by putting 1 point to brutal weaponry, as you're going to want to put at least 1 point to your weaponry skill, whatever class or whatever tree you're going into, as that allows you to unlock more attacks with your weapons. So as before, we would have for everything but the longsword, just the basic X number of hits combo, depending on the weapon in question, the range from 3 to 5 hits. We now can actually do with the weapons favorite or preferred by might skills, the greatsword, longsword, and hammer. We now have charge special moves for each of those. I'll show them off as we find each weapon, starting with the longsword since we already have one equipped. We're also going to buy Harpoon. Harpoon is a very useful spell, basically allowing you to either snag and pull enemies that are smaller towards you, or pull yourself towards larger enemies. It's pretty useful it's a pretty useful ability, but more importantly for comboing, it's the only spell that has a short enough recovery time that you can combo after it naturally. A few other spells you can finagle to get that effect, but you will get to those once we have some of them. So it's great for doing combos, and it also just gives you good mobility across the battlefield, zipping up around between enemies or pulling them to you. And last but not least, because I know we're going to get one here, and actually no, because when we get that, it's going to be significantly more powerful than what we have here. So we're going to put another point to longsword mastery, because skillful defense is an okay skill. I mean, greater mitigation of damage while blocking isn't a bad idea, but I don't really rely on blocking too much. And while you can gain an extra ability, actually, you know what? Undo that last point. We're going to put the point to here, because when you max this out, I believe it's 8 is the max level for this skill, or 5. Once you hit level 5, you actually unlock a shield bash attack. I don't remember it being particularly useful in combos, but it's not something I've ever really used a lot, so take what I say on that with a grain of salt here. But with that said, we've now leveled up. You can get 4 points into might and 1 in each of the other ones here. That will be important for later when another mechanic is introduced later in the video. Let's get on with our adventure by first sorting through our equipment. Because yeah, we do have, there's an option on the interface, you'll notice there. Press the, in that case, since I'm on PC, but automatically goes with the Xbox controller's prompts, which is what I'm using anyway. Press Y to add items to your, junk inventory. And junk inventory is basically just stuff you don't plan to keep around. And when you go to a shop, you can basically just press one button and sell everything that's in the junk, or that's in your junk. So, with that said, we're going to clear up our inventory a little bit here, since we have a more focused build, what we're going to be going for here. And just, basically, stuff that is going to be good. So we have, that's 15, so we have best legs, there's going to be 8 armor. And then 12. Yeah, it's going to give us 20 armor. Which is 5 points extra, which is more than 10% increase. So yep, we are equipping that. Not having pants on looks weirder than not having a shirt in this game. That looks okay, but not having pants on, but having then again, maybe it's having plate mail with no pants on just looks weird in general. Throw that in the junk. Oh, actually the greaves are really good. Alright, cool. Well, full suit of plate mail. Embracing our build here. Keeping that. Consumables. Oh. Okay, Serpent's Venom is there, but the Venom Guard. We'll pop to that. I don't think we're going to see anything that does poison damage for any excessive amount for a while, but good to have. And the Well Progress Log, because that's not going to do us any good to have that around. And, well, actually, since we're here, we might as well talk about repair kits. Weapons do have durability. You can use this to to repair them. I don't know if I have the Lusty Longsword long enough to make actually using this here worthwhile, but, you know, whatever. And lockpicks, we'll get into opening locked chests in a moment here. But let's go ahead and get on with life by first introducing our new attack with the sword. So charge inputs are, of course, press and hold, and then you actually have multiple levels of charge. Right now we're at full charge here, and you can hold this for as long as you like, and it won't go past this initial charge here. And with the case of the sword, that charge input is dash forward to thrust, and then if you press the attack button again, you can do a spin slash. You can also level 0 charge, which only gives you that thrust, and okay, it's 0 is your first kind of frames of the charge, which you can do the spin. What? Okay, so that's yeah, because there's kind of 3 levels of charge. Initial, which is basically just start charging. Level 1, which will be if you charge for like a split second, and is recognized by that kind of first little flash, and then full charge, when you get that second bigger flash. Each one of charging more tends to do more damage, and most charge skills will have later effects. Like in this one, you have to at least have that first charge to do that, to be able to do that spin slash. Just on a, you just get that short dash, and it's also a shorter distance. Actually, I just noticed. The importance of the different levels of charge kind of factors into how charge moves fit into combos, and they're kind of iffy place in doing combos. Though if you can build a charge and kind of wait for an enemy to approach you, full charge can be good, but you can't really put that into a combo even utilizing what I refer to as... I don't remember that guy getting up. Weird. Yeah, whatever. And of course we get some survivors from here, including this lady.
Thank Matharu. Another survivor. Are there any more?
Door claps behind me, so I hope not, otherwise I'm not getting out.
I suppose that's a little bit of kindness from fate. May those still trapped inside rest peacefully.
Okay, and of course with the conversation I noticed we have this menu here. In addition to kind of your conversation wheel choices, you can also ask people just about random things. Admittedly, all this stuff is stuff we already know about. Yeah, so we're not going to bother it.
We'll be moving soon.
Nah, probably not before I do.
Told them we needed more guards.
And you were not wrong. And you don't have a name, so we'll talk to you instead.
I saw you fighting there. We could have used more of you. Did they really have a troll?
Was that the big rocky thing that I fought? If so, yes.
Oh, I don't know how the Twatha found us, but if they had a troll, it couldn't have been an accident. Fate was kind to collapse that doorway behind you, or they would have chased us into the Glade.
That sounds bad.
They're technically a type of wild fae, related to the fae of the summer and winter courts, actually. Dangerous enough in the wild. Twatha also used them in their army.
But her fae? Yeah, whatever.
Good luck out there.
Yep, I think I'm gonna need it. Who are you?
Another survivor? But I've never seen you in the tower. Were you one of the Professor's assistants in the downstairs projects? Did he escape with you?
Not really. He seemed to be more focused on me escaping and distracting people. Admittedly, he distracted them like a badass, so...
That sounds like him. Professor Hughes was very thoughtful. I mean, he is very thoughtful. I'm sure he found a way to get out. He must have.
I mean, he seemed like a pretty tough dude, so maybe,
You
but...
should be safe here. At least a little longer.
Unless there was another exit, I don't think he did. But then again, he built a magical thing that basically allowed him to defy death, so... He seemed like a smart dude, I don't know. Anyway, despite the fact this is probably a terrible idea when you're in full plate mail, we can swim! And swimming basically works kind of like when you're on land. You know, move with your analog stick. You click down the analog stick, you can swim faster. But more interestingly, there are these little kind of bubbling spots that if you press A and dive, contain items. Sturdy leggings. Ooh, that's an 8-point increase. Oh, actually, that is a that is a 13-point increase. Because, yeah, you'll notice with the equipment, of course, you have, kind of standard things, your durability, your, in the case of armor rating, weapons ones that have damage there, your requirements, if there are any, which are just based on how many points you have into each of the skill trees, and then your bonuses. With most weapons and armor, you have, like, most armor is a default thing, more finesse-focused armor tends to have boost to critical hit damage. Heavy plate armor tends to have more melee block efficiency. But in this case, this has a +5 to armor. That +5 to armor isn't actually included in that armor value. It's easier to point that out when you're actually crafting things. You'll see, like, each component builds to a certain amount for your base armor, and then if you, choose a component that gives a plus something to armor, it shows there but not there, but it does overall affect your armor. So yeah, that is a 13-point increase to armor. Yes, we are going to equip that. Equip our leather pants. And since we no longer need this, because yeah, you'll notice, actually, easy way to show it. Because yeah, so this should only be an 8-point drop. And it is. I swear that the +5 didn't actually show in those, but I guess it does here. Either way, it's still stronger, so we're going with that. Because that's that's like a 20% increase to my armor rating right there. And then there's over here where we'll find Minor Blazing Salve. It's a potion. Adds fire damage to your weapon attacks and also just boosts any fire damage you do. Kind of useful if you're fighting things that are, weak to fire, or, you rely on a lot of fire-based magic or abilities, or your just weapons already have fire damage on them. Can be useful. Not something we're going to get a lot of use out of right now, but, useful to keep on hand. And Shadow Prisms. These are an item that I personally never found a use for. Essentially what they do is they create an explosion around you that attracts enemy attention, drawing them to you. I don't know if it actually spawns extra enemies in to make it good for grinding, but I've just never found a reason to attract enemy attention in this game. Maybe there's something like I've never thought of, but it's not something I'm super into exploring, so I'm going to throw those in the junk. Take the Blazing Salve into our normal inventory, and actually let's really quickly get this added. Yeah, pop that there. Put all our offensive potions up here, defensive down here, and then keep health and mana just like it is on the D-pad in those spots. Alright, cool. And I believe, let's take a look here in the water. Because there's something we want to check over on the other side of the water here, but I just want to check. Yeah, there's usually 1 or 2 more dive spots over here. Including the Scout's Longbow, which is better than our current longbow. So we're probably not going to keep the longbow around for much longer, but since we are using it, might as well equip the better one. And then I believe, okay, I was misremembering on that. Oh look, there's a deer. We're going to ignore that. Oh, also there's some fishies. I forgot to point that out a moment ago. But yeah, over here there is, well, if you're not paying attention to the mini-map, it's not quite so secret. It's not even super secret without paying attention, but it's kind of hidden, where there's some chests. We're actually going to there we go. Try and kite these guys, because there's 5 of them in here. And it's a small space. It's very easy for them to... Alright. Oh. Good. Okay, so diseases. We'll go into them more in depth, but they're basically negative passive effects that are temporary. I believe they stick around in, well, like it says there, you have to go to a healer or drink a cure disease potion. It's going to be a bit before we find a healer. Remember, this isn't too bad of a negative effect. And yeah, we'll go into it here when I'm not being attacked by a rat, but yes, we can... take a look in the menu to see any and all effects that we have. Oh, that is right, coming right for me. And I don't know why I just drank that mana potion when I decided, no, I'm just gonna stab you. I'm not gonna use more spells. I just wasted a mana potion. Oh well. Alright, so let's destroy boxes, because that was always our first priority. See if we get any money. Usually don't, but always worth a check. Loot the skeleton, which has a cloudy protection shard. Shards are used in sagecraft. You combine shards into actual gems, or once you have enough points in sagecraft, you can combine lower quality shards to create higher quality shards. And now for those 3 glowing chests. The golden glowing ones are locked, while the purple one is sealed. And it gives us a chance to play around with unlocking chests and dispelling seals. So unlocking chests is actually really easy. There are different levels of difficulty for the chests, but I've never been able to find what the differences are. And they don't, like, a very easy chest versus like a hard or very hard chest doesn't feel too much more difficult to me personally. Though admittedly the way lockpicking works in general isn't too hard, so maybe that's why. So, when you find a lock chest, you can choose to either force it. Higher skill you have, the better your chance on that. And I forget what happens if you fail to force, and basically you can try to force it, and if it fails, G game, thanks for helping me out on that. So yeah, if it succeeds, you just open the chest, and but you have a certain percent chance. I had 10% chance and lucked out, and it actually worked. If you fail, though, it consumes a lockpick. And that's kind of your main thing when it comes to unlocking chests, lockpicks. Your inventory of lockpicks tells you how much you can do with that. So, let's go over to this one. We're not going to try and force it, because apparently I should go buy a lottery ticket right now. Yeah, 10% chance to win. That's on a whole different scale, but, you know, whatever. We're actually going to go through the minigame here. So, we're going to pick the lock, and yeah. You use the right stick to move the little pick here, and then the left stick to move the lever. The way it works is basically, you'll notice, as I got to the middle there, the pick started to shake. Your controller also vibrates, but that doesn't really help you guys out all that much. And yeah, when you see that, that means you're in the wrong spot, and if you keep going, you're going to break your lock pin. But if you're in the right spot, which, considering I apparently started there, and you slide it over, you unlock the chest. And so it's basically, you have to move the pick around to find the right spot and unlock the chest. And if you break the lock picks, and you break lock picks, you don't want to do that. Crude birch longbow, not particularly useful. Minor health regeneration potion is basically what it says in the tin. Increase your health regeneration, or unless you already have it by default through thanks to armor or something, gives you health regeneration for the temporary time period. So you're going to go in junk. And then iron chest piece, as well as the things we're seeing in the other chests, besides I think there was a regen potion in there as well. These are components. They're used in crafting things. Iron chest piece is used in, used in armor, I believe, either finesse or might armor, I forget which, or it might even be both. Components do have a lot of overlap, especially that core component not so much, but extra components, there's a lot of overlap in what you can do with them. Anyway, we're going to take all that and actually jump into here really quickly to map that to the radial. And, oh, actually, while we're here, almost forgot. Status. Effects. 15% drop in armor. That's actually with how low my armor is right now, not a numerical drop. I don't remember how armor is calculated as far as when it comes to damage. That might actually still be a big issue, but man, we're not going to be fighting too many things here. And now for Dispelling. Dispelling is, in the sense, they're kind of similar to lockpicking in the sense that you can either choose to do it manually, auto-attempt. The thing, though, with Dispelling is that once you level up your skill in it, you can actually get, like, fail 2 or 3 times and be fine. But if you fail to dispel a chest, it explodes, and you cannot open that chest anymore. You don't get the items, you take some damage, and you can't get the chest, you can't get the items in it anymore. So, as for how you do that when you manually dispel, you get a circle that will have glyphs on it. What you have to do is, when your cursor is on, or is above, or basically around, or close to being, or touching one of the glyphs, you press the button, and that glyph is unsealed. What you need to do is unseal all 4 glyphs. Or, well, there will be on higher ones, obviously, more glyphs, but yeah. There are also mines. There aren't any on this, but if you click on a mine, that's just an auto failure. You have a certain amount of time to do this, and in addition, you'll notice the glyphs have different markings. The more markings on a glyph, the shorter its resealing time. So, well, let's see if we can do it. 1,000, 2,000. Takes 3 rotations approximately for that. Compared against, it looks like about 1 rotation for the 2 glyph one, and you only get about half rotation for the 3 glyph one. And yeah, you need to have all the glyphs unsealed before the time runs out to unlock the chest. And scepter, that's magic, but not like super rare or anything like that. So we're gonna throw that in junk. Another shard, and then the numbing hammer. I'm pretty sure this chest, that is a guaranteed drop. And it is a very good one if you're going to be using a might-based build. I'm not a big fan of hammers overall, but you'll notice the damage output on that, plus the fact that it also has ice damage, is pretty substantial. So we are going to get rid of our bow, put that shard, and dump our bow into the into our junk bag. Alright. So, hammers. Predictably, very slow weapons. And also don't have a terribly long natural combo. Compared to 4 hits for the longsword, you only have 3 hits with the hammer. And compared against most of the finesse weapons, you tend to see those really long basic strings, so things like daggers, which can actually get up to 5 hits. Hammers are actually the slowest weapon in the game. And our ice vector is because it does ice damage. But one thing I do like about hammers, and particularly for the early game, is their charge move. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 4-hit combo. And the best part? Oh, okay, so you need to, it's kind of like the sword. You need to at least get that level 1 to get the full sequence. And this is as good a time as any to talk about the way that combos fit in, or the way that charge moves fit into combos. Because you can do what's called charge buffering. So, for example, you can do either a level 0 charge or usually a level 1 charge by basically, while you're doing another animation, pressing and holding the button and you'll charge. And so you can basically charge mid-combo. As I said, you'll only ever get a level 1 charge, and sometimes you might not even be able to pull that off. So it is a bit of an oddity to do. It's kind of an advanced combo tech, but if you're looking to do big combos, it's a useful technique to know, and even for shorter combos it can be useful. These are all more components for crafting. Just a good thing to come over here and grab those. And of course, it's always good to grab, well, if you can. Since I have low alchemy skill, I don't do it too often, but investigate plants, get resources to craft or for alchemy. Always useful to do. And okay, nothing over here. But we do have this. The Shrine of Mitharu. We'll deal with you in a moment. I'm explaining things, okay? So shrines exist all across the map, and when you interact with them, they apply a positive buff. In this case, Shrine of Mitharu gives us Mitharu's protection. So if we take a look at our effects, in addition to we still have that Binder's Legions, but we also have Mitharu's protection, which grants us health regeneration. Now the effects will only be in effect for as long as that circle has a little glowy thing around it. Same thing with the negative ones, but the negative ones don't have a timer like the positive ones do. And shrines aren't the only way to get positive effects, but they're the main way that you'll do it most often, unless you intentionally go out of your way to do certain things. Anyway, grab these items, and let's play with this bear. Oh shit. Also, you don't want to mess with bears, because there's probably more than 2 weight classes, but I usually think of things in regards to 2 different weight classes. Smaller enemies and heavy enemies. And the way that it works is that basically the heavier an enemy is, the more resistant they are to hit stuff. Bears are kind of a medium weight or a lower heavyweight kind of class. So they, well, I'll explain in a moment.
I remember you. You're the one? How did you come back? How did you find me here?
What are you doing here? You were the one carting my dead body into the fire pit, weren't you?
When I saw you with Edsel in the well, I ran. But it wasn't because I was afraid. I was coming to report that Hughes's experiment had succeeded. The Well of Souls is bigger than just one gnome's pet project. My contact pays well for information about its progress. I just send reports to make some money on the side. But I don't know how the Tuatha found out. This has nothing to do with them. I never wanted anyone to get hurt.
Who did you report
I promise you, if I knew who it was, I'd tell you. Sharing research is one thing, but academic sabotage is a crime.
So, since this is probably your fault, you know what?
I don't have... Okay, here. It's all I've got, plus what I got paid for the information. I don't want any part of this. I'm going home to Odessa.
So yeah, if you get the chance, you want to try persuading, and putting some points into persuasion while you're at it. Because, well, there aren't an overabundance of chances to do that. You know, talking your way out to people to get extra resources is, you know, is a nice thing. Alright, so as I was saying, though, with the heavier enemies and the whole concept of how hit stun works, essentially, you know, of course, like most games, when you hit an opponent, there's a certain amount of time in which they are, you know, they can't do anything while they're, you know, reeling from being hit. Larger enemies in this game, it's most noticeable with larger things, with like really big things like the troll we fought at the end of the tutorial, have a sort of immunity to hit stun in that when you hit them, they don't suffer from hit stun. As you attack them more and more, they do build up hit stun, and once they reach a certain point, they kind of go into a lengthy kind of extended crumple stun kind of animation that as you hit them, you can basically extend the duration of. And yeah, bears are a little bit weirder though. They will, especially when they're in the middle of attacking, they have super armor. You can't do anything about it when they're attacking you. But they are susceptible to hit stun, sort of. I've never found a quite consistent way of... Oh, that was great. Also, you can do stuff like that when you're comboing into and out of special or out of charge moves, but I find that to be less useful, mostly just because, you know, it's only good when there's like only one thing around. You're taking the time to charge it up. Well, one enemy's on the ground, you still got like two people trying to eat your face or whatever. Not really very smart. Okay, and we'll do this, and Stone Candle Mine. We're not going in there yet. We'll come back to this probably in a video or two, because one thing with this game is that this game actually uses kind of an interesting form of level scaling. Essentially, when you enter a particular area, for example, where we're at right now, Allestar Glade, when you enter an area, its level is locked to a certain value based on your level. With that value basically being, for every area, it has its own range, and basically either your level if it's within that range, or the closest value within that range to your level. So, for example, Allestar Glade here is, you know, its range is 1. So when you enter here, the enemies in this area are locked at level 1. It's a starting area after the tutorial where you get your first level up, and you will be level 1, so that makes sense. Stone Candle Mine there, though, is a bit of a higher level. It's actually, I believe, 2 to 12 is its range. So if we were to walk in there right now, the enemies would all be locked at level 2. It's a short dungeon, so if we were to go through, we could clear it and, you know, deal with just the fact that the enemies are at level 2, but considering we're only level 1, and, you know, once we have another level or two under our belt, and are better equipped to fight things in there, we'll also be able to have more fun with them because we'll have more abilities. So we're going to ignore that for the moment and come over to here. Because, well, you might have remembered Hughes told us to find somebody, and, well, guess who just happened to be outside?
You've come from the tower, haven't you? Name's Agarth. Maybe you can help an old Fate Weaver, eh?
What's a Fate Weaver?
Fate Weavers look at the great tapestry of fate. The threads will tell us how a life will unfold. But knowing the future and being able to change it are two very different things.
And yeah, just as a heads up, fate in this world is like a real force. Everything is preordained and predestined. Yeah, normally, we'll see kind of where exceptions start coming up into that. Anyway, Hughes sent us to find you, so...
Did he? Poor old Fomerus Hughes. He respected the way the world works. What a shame. He's probably dead by now.
And why would you think he's dead? Then again, if he's a Fate Weaver, they can see the threads of fate. I guess he knew he... I don't know.
The cards told me that the Well of Souls would work, but Hughes' success would come on the day of his death. He took it pretty well, honestly. Although we did a lot of drinking after that.
I mean, admittedly, being told about your mortality, yeah, I could see that, yeah, being a problem. But what do you mean the cards?
You really don't know much, do you? A Fate Weaver taps into the threads of fate and channels that energy through a focus. My order prefers cards. The cards are unique to each Fate Weaver, since we all see the weave differently.
You know, if you're going to insult me, I mean, I was, in a sense, just born today, so, you know, maybe I'm not super knowledgeable about the world here. If you're going to insult me about that, give me stuff.
I suppose I could spare a little help, in memory of Hughes, or in celebration of his success. Whichever.
And yeah, he gives us items that are honestly too powerful for us to get much use out of right now. I mean, we can use them and they aren't a bad idea, but they're greater regeneration potions for mana and health, which, yeah, we have a low enough health value and mana value that using those is kind of a waste at this point. And yeah, they're pretty pricey things. I might sell them. That might be a good way to make some more cash. Anyway,
You're the one. Then that means it all makes sense now. The cards this morning. I drew the Gravedigger, the Running Man, and the Beast. Prepare yourself. They're coming.
I presume somehow those three cards told you that you would meet a formerly dead person. There we go. And yes, new mechanic to be introduced here. Fate Energy. You'll notice in the upper right corner, you of course have the red bar health, blue bar mana. In between that is a bar that's until just now been completely empty. But now we have some purple stuff in there. That bar is the Fate Energy. As you defeat enemies and use special attacks, you build Fate Energy. Kill Stealer. And now, for this tutorial, it just filled our Fate Energy, because once the Fate bar is full, you can enter Reckoning mode. It basically boosts your attack power, your speed, or more accurately, rather than boosting your speed, it basically puts the world into bullet time, but same, half a dozen of one, 6 of the other. And you'll stay in that until either your Fate meter runs out, or you perform what's known as a Fate shift. So, do you go into Reckoning mode, pull those triggers, and for this tutorial, we actually have infinite fate. The Fate Energy cannot run out. It's not normally this case, but this is a tutorial special rule. So you notice, everything goes purple. The world's kind of slowed down, and as we defeat enemies, once they get to critical health, they will, or if they die, basically, but it basically kind of puts them into a unique state known as unraveling. Their fate is now unraveling. And you'll notice that they kind of kneel down in a, critical hurt position, and the threads of fate will actually start kind of wavering around them. You can kind of see there. And yep, he's unraveling now. Get over here.
Kneel before Tyrnor.
And yeah, if you're near an unraveling enemy, you can press A to perform a fate shift. This uses the remaining fate energy and destroys all unraveling foes with a big flashy cinematic, and then you're given a button mashing, QTE, and depending on how you button mash, you'll get a bonus to all experience from the fate shifted enemies. In this case, I got 100% bonus, and ooh, Iron Kite Shield. And it's better than what we've got. Yes, please. And we'll go talk to that guy in a moment, but, I want to keep my inventory nice and clean here. I'm kind of weird like that. Anyway, we are approaching him now.
What? How? What are you? The threads of fate. I've seen them before, but I've never seen anyone manipulate them like that. You just changed how the world was supposed to work. How did you do that?
I don't know.
You just... Fate is the will of the gods. No mortal should be able to change it. How is that even possible? Come here. I'm going to do a reading. You might be able to change the threads, but fate will still have a plan for you. I promise not to tell you if I see your death.
That seems to be a common theme in your readings. That worries me.
It's a gift. Some people paint landscapes. Other people write poetry. I peer into the weave of fate's tapestry and see people's deaths.
Maybe this is why Hughes told me to find you, since he seems to know you're a fate weaver and seems to be good at seeing people's deaths. Sure.
That would be my guess. He was an academic, but he had a proper respect for fate's plan, unlike most gnomes.
All right. Show me my fate, I guess.
You're nervous. Relax. This is what fate weavers do. I'll be seeing your place in the pattern of destiny. Who you are, what you've done, where your path takes you. Or, at least, I should be. You're real, right? I swear I haven't had that much.
Can you not? Then again, I guess if I unraveled someone else's fate, I guess my fate's special. Maybe, can you see it?
Fate's weave is always hard to see. It's in motion, hard to make out, but undeniably there. Yours is just missing. This doesn't make sense. All mortal creatures have a place in the pattern. You should have one too, dead or not. If this is true, and I'm not saying I believe it, then your path is yours to determine.
Alright, and so this introduces a mechanic I kind of briefly mentioned, but didn't go too into at the beginning. It's basically the class system, or it's referred to here, destinies. Essentially, as you put points into each of these skill trees, you unlock more destinies. Right now, since we have 4 points in might, but only one point in each of the other ones, we only have the bare minimum basic ones, but you get for pointing 1 point into each of the trees. Which, since the game starts you with 1 point in each of them, unless you decide to respec, you'll always have at least these, well, technically 4, but Fateless one is basically saying you don't have a class, you're classless loser. But yeah, as you put more points, for example, we're doing a might-based build, so once we reach 11 points, we'll unlock the Fighter Destiny, which will, Brawler will give us boosted melee attack damage and block efficiency. Fighter does, that, but more. And then as we put more points in, 40 or 28 points to become Soldier, 49 to become a Warrior, 76 for Conqueror, and 109 for Warlord, we'll get further buffs and things like that. Soldier adds gives us further bonuses to melee attack and block efficiency. but also adds an increased stun duration. So when we stun an enemy, they're stunned for longer. Warrior buffs all those. Conqueror adds in a chance to stun, so where just our normal attacks will have a chance to, not just normal hit stun, but like extended stun. So, you know, we'll have a chance to do that with just our normal attacks, not just certain abilities that can do that. And then Warlord grants the ability to basically, if we die, we'll be restored to 20% health, but our health will start constantly draining until we kill something. Can be pretty useful in mob or in like group fights, but it's a hit or miss kind of ability. Anyway, each of the trees has their own one, as well as for the combination classes. Which are normally, well, Might is normally conferred to as a warrior, Finesse is a rogue, Sorcery is a mage build, Finesse and Sorcery is usually known as a spell cloak, Might and Sorcery as a battle mage, and Might and Finesse as a blade master, and then just a little bit of everything being known as the Universalist. And all of them have relevant things. For example, Universalist reduces equipment requirements and boosts all potential types of magic, because, well, since equipment requirements are based usually pretty heavily on your level in each, or your number of points in each of the skill trees. If you're dividing your points between all the skill trees, you're usually going to come up a little bit short for equipment relevant to your level. So this, kind of covers for that, and also just boosts all your damage. And you get different things like that. Anyway, since we are doing a warrior or might-based build, we'll take the level 1 of that, since we don't have a lot of other options here, unless you want to take something completely out of the ordinary. I say let's go with that. Let's go with the level 1 mage one. Elemental damage, right? Actually, the mana cost reduction could be useful, but we're going to go with Brawler.
I can see the threads around you, but they're shifting, changing so rapidly, I can't make sense of them. Normally the threads would guide my hand to the cards, and I'd use those cards to see your pattern in the weave. But it just didn't happen. They wouldn't focus. So either there's something wrong with me, and there isn't, or there's something very wrong with you.
Or, third option, there's something very right with me. I am the one. Whoa. Yeah, I can't do a good Keanu Reeves impression. I'm not even sure what that would sound like. Anyway, so what does this mean anyway?
It could mean nothing. Or it could mean everything. The world is changing. You might be a sign of that. Or maybe the cause. I've never had a reason to doubt my own readings. But we should consult with Arden. He's not a friend, but he's got a good eye for the tapestry. I'll meet you at his home to the east. I'm going to see if I can be of any help to the wounded at the tower. That's just it. I don't know if you've got one, but that's why we're going to see Arden. He lives in a little hut to the east in Yulven. I'll meet you there.
All right.
What could this all mean?
I don't know. You're the guy who knows all this fate stuff. You tell me. All right. So let's really quickly loot the area on this guy's campsite. I believe there's a couple of plants we can find. I think only one of those enemies actually drops any items, so we already got what we can from that. Yeah, all these dead bodies and nothing I can loot. Alright, but there we go, there's another plant. Keep getting no reagents, because I have terrible alchemy skill. Alright. So, with the direction where we should be heading, if we look at our map, Arden's hut, which even though it shows the icon on the map, we can't actually go there. Though anywhere we've visited, which you can kind of indicate, these are kind of transparent, but these are fully, visible white. We could fast travel. We're not going to do that though. We're going to proceed forward. And let's see. All right. There we go. Fate Stone. Or not Fate Stones, Lore Stones. Which, well,
of all the songs in halls of lore, there echoes none more grand than Olane's many feats of might, the pure and lady of the light. She is a knight of golden knot. She is the cure seeker, the conscience of the summer fae. She is the heart of spring, of day.
So yeah, lore stones are basically fantasy audio logs. And essentially the way it works, well, you find them, you know, get to listen to the little voice recording. If you ever want to listen to it again, you can go ahead and status lore stones, which actually here it kind of explains it. As you explore the world, you'll discover a wide array of lore, snippets of history, mythology, so on and so forth. Finding them gives you experience, and once you collect a full set within an area, you'll gain a additional bonus experience. And here we can actually review all the lore stones we've found. There's a lot of them, because each of these is a set, which most sets have about 5 to 10 lore stones in them. So there's a lot of them to be found. It's a big world. But the other thing, in addition to the experience you get from finding them, and the bonus experience you get from finding all of them, you also get a reward when you find all of them. In this case, the one we found is the Dalentarth, Dalentarth, fun fantasy words that are hard to pronounce, which, grants us, if we find all 5 of them, a resistance to poison. In addition, if you select the item, you can examine the lore. It'll show you each of the lore stones you found, and you can listen to them again if you want to, or just read them. Yeah, up to you on that. Anyway, we now have a new quest, Into the Light. And why do I have items? What did I find? Oh, the Navy recruitment letter. We actually want to keep that. Okay. Also, treasure chest over here. Shard, C-Flex. Ooh, Steeled Curtain. Bonus to armor. Yes, please. Pop that there. And there's something, nice stopping point that should be coming up soon. So, yeah, we'll call it a day here in a couple of moments. But of course, first loot some plants, because that is primary objective number 1. We need resources for potion crafting, after all. And don't worry, I'm just here to steal your plant. You don't need to kick me, because that will hurt a lot. I think I'd live, but I'd rather not test that personally. And so, we come to the town of Gorhart. The first bit of civilization we've seen since returning from the dead, and a good stopping point for the day. Tune in next time where we will explore this town and likely what lies beyond it. Until then, though, as always, later, folks.